Diezel VH4. We know what this is, right? This one belongs to a friend of mine who lives up the road. He has just purchased it on the second-hand market and found, I guess, during the first few days that he's had this thing, it's a bit kind of loose in the bottom end and a bit undefined and just kind of struggling to get a sound out of it that he liked. It's got KT77s in it when he got it, but he also got from the seller a match set of 6L6 tubes. So it's come in here to get a tube change and a rebias, which is, a simple job, but hey, it's a VH4, so of course I'm going to play with it. I'm just going to go through some tones with this thing, a fairly long playthrough when I go through and dial in, my kind of preferred settings, I guess, across channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I've also recorded some kind of riffage into a loop on my Axe-Fx 3, and we can do a before and after, right? Play the same loop. I've played the loop into the Axe-Fx, recorded the loop with the KT77s, then I changed it to the 6L6s, right? Rebiased the amp, and then played the loop through again, right? So we can get a nice A/B test there, whether there's any difference in the power tubes. Look, having spent some time with this amp, I'm able to get killer sounds out of it, I think, right? It is a very bassy amp. You've got to I find that you've got to bring the bass down on the channels, right? And the deep pot, which is like a depth or resonance pot, also keeping that pretty low, right? Otherwise it does get a bit undefined and loose in the bottom end. The signal chain. Okay, this is a 57 reissue Black Beauty, right? It's got a Sir Doug Aldrich in the bridge, right? It's my latest guitar. It's a killer. It's amazing. I love it. It's going straight in to the Axe-Fx so I can use the looper. But there's nothing in front of the amp, right, other than that looper. Out of the Axe-Fx, we're going into the Diezel. Out of the back of the Diezel, it's the Sir reactive load, okay? And then out of the Sir reactive load, we're back into the Axe-Fx where I've got an IR. I'm using today an ML SoundLab Greenback 4x12 IR, which I think suits this amp fantastically. And then from there, I've got some reverb and some circular delay, which I'm bringing in and out with my FC12 foot controller, courtesy of the Lexicon and the Eventide Eclipse. And from there, we're going into an Apollo twin. We're going to take it out to the bench and I'll show you kind of how I do the tube change and the rebias, and we'll have a good look inside this amp. Have a look at the construction method and, make a few comments about that and how to rebias this thing. So with the 6L6 tube change, the first thing I noticed was that there was a volume drop. And I would guess it's because the 6L6s are a lower output tube, right? I mean, not by much, but across, a quad set of tubes, it obviously makes a difference. And because I'm running the amp pretty hard here, I've got the master up at, nearly midday on the master volume. I did have to adjust my levels a little bit, just up a tad, right? It was a noticeable drop in volume. Alright, so I've got this VH4 out of the head cab. First thing I'm going to say about it is, oh my god, it's a big amp. It's so freaking heavy, and the size of it is huge, right, in terms of the depth. And that's cool, right? That's what these things are. I'm not complaining, I'm just making an observation. Notice this. Alright, so we have a 6L6 and an EL34 switch here. That'll be, you know, to change obviously the bias adjustment. That's what we're going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check the bias on these KT77s. I've already heard it play through, so we know what this amp sounds like kind of when I got it. I'll actually check these. You know, I think the amp sounds fine, right? It sounds like a Diezel to me. It doesn't sound anything but that. Look at the chassis. This plate here, right? This will be the power transformer here, down by the power output transformer. So these obviously come in the VH4S, which is the stereo version of this, and it runs 2 output transformers, right? And these additional unused preamp tubes here is because in the stereo version of the VH4, you have two phase inverters independently, right? Two phase inverters sending a signal through to your left and right channel. Right, let's flick this thing over and have a look. They're pretty interesting amps, right? You know, the workmanship in here is good, no doubt. All right, very, very clean. Wiring all these pots, it's a big job, right? And it's all done beautifully cleanly. I love all this kind of stuff, right? How this is all done in parallel. Here's all the MIDI control stuff, right? So this will be the MIDI chip. This will be the CPU here. This will be like something like an NPN array or something like that, which allows, it supports enough current to drive all of the switching relays that are on the board, and you can see there are a truckload of them. Look at this, right? Now, I kind of love this about VH4s. It's weird, but I kind of love it, right? Look at all this. All right, you can see that on the video, I'm sure you can. All of the circuitry that's actually flying above the PCB. All right, so the PCB is just a suggestion. I'm sure this is not easy to build, right? That's intricate work there. And what they should do, perhaps, is standardize and get a new PCB. I know a guy that can do that. So I'm going to go right ahead and we're going to check the bias on these KT77s that have been put in here. These actually look pretty new Euro tubes. Can't quite, there's no data or anything like that on there, but it's definitely a matched set, and they do not look that old actually. So this will be interesting, right? To see if there's any tonal difference between the 77s and the 6L6s that we're going to put in here. Right, so before we change these KT77s out, we're going to check how the amp is biased. Let's do that now. All right, so I've got my bias probe set up here, and I'm going to check plate voltage, right? And then I'm going to key in the KT77 at this plate voltage and see where our bias point is currently set. Right, so here I am, I'm on pin 3 of the power tube, and you can see I'm at, what are we at here, 448. 449 maybe. Okay, I'm punching this into my bias calculator here, and it's telling me that 70% dissipation would be 39 milliamps. What we're getting here, right, stock, well not stock, but you know, as I receive the amp, I should say, 36.8 milliamps. Let's call it 37. So if I put 37 to my calculator here, I'm getting 66% plate dissipation. That's perfect. That's exactly where I would set it. So this is actually quite a surprise. It doesn't often happen this way. So whoever changed these tubes and rebiased the amp, good on you, because you did it right. Right, well, we've got the 6L6s in here, which is from here, right? It's a matched set, and so the customer supplied these when he gave me the amp, right? So 6L6 GC MSTR is a matched set of rubies, right, which are just rebadged or rebranded tubes. And right at 449, or let's call it 450 volts DC, I'm going to be looking for about 28 milliamps, right, on bias. Now I have flicked the switch over to 6L6 mode from the EL34, and at the setting that we had for the KT77s, these guys are now drawing nearly 70 milliamps, right? So we're going to bring this down. If you look at an amp like this and you're not too sure where the bias is, it's a bit of a dead giveaway, right? the adjustable pot here is always 2 electrolytic caps, that are kind of smaller ones like this, right? A few resistors, a single diode, right? And a wire that's coming off your power transformer. Kind of, you look at those ingredients, you know, yeah, this will be the bias adjustment right here. So I'm bringing this guy down, and the bias is beautifully coming back for me here. And I'm looking for 28, so let me dial that in right now, and there I am on 28. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. With respect to the tone test between the KT77s and the 6L6s, I'd love to hear your comments, whether you felt there was a difference or you could hear a difference, which one you preferred. I'll see you next time.